the message is more important than the production. The message is so much more important than the production. What if I just acted as if the message was the most important thing? I'm officially the pastor of the Fourth Church of the Holy Goldfish. It's a joke that keeps on giving, but it really is about taking responsibility for your own spiritual journey. And I thought, I'll just admit to what it is. It's going to be a raggedy podcast, and I'm not going to probably do production and a whole lot of editing. And so there'll be background noise and technical difficulties. But at the core of what my work is about is how do we connect with our heart and with our passions and do the healing work so that we can live differently in a way that feels loving and life embracing. And that's important to me. And that's something I'm passionate about. Like many things that have started in my life, I decided to do a thing called the Holy Goldfish Commentary. It will be a Raggedy Podcast Production. I hope you'll come along the journey. Who knows where it'll take me?
When I pay attention, nature sure teaches me a lot of lessons. And sometimes it reminds me of lessons that I've already learned. I've been sitting for the past couple of days, and as I'm sitting, I can see there's a tree outside of my kitchen window. And over the past maybe 2 or 3 days that I've noticed it, there's a bird that's been frantically moving. Not frantically, but he's been on it. She's been on it. I don't know which it is. But I've been watching out my window as this bird goes and gathers moss, gathers twigs and strings and big stuff. Moss where when he picks it up, it weighs him down and he has to fly even harder. And he's going up in this spot in the tree. It's hard for me to tell what season changes we're in because I live right below the equator and it's pretty much the same season all year long. They call it perpetual spring. And although we're technically in winter, we just celebrated the winter solstice in June. This bird is getting ready for something. It's making preparations. I've seen these birds before. They're outside of my window. They're on the power line. They're in the trees. I've got hummingbirds that come and visit the flowers that my neighbor plants that just happen to bloom outside of my second floor flats windows. But this bird has been busy. And as I was watching it yesterday morning, specifically, watching its pattern, trying to see where it was going up in this tree, and speculating with pretty good certainty that it was building a nest. I thought about my dad, and I thought about one of the parables that right after his death really stood out to me in a way that was impactful. My dad was a Christian, and so I grew up learning the Christian stories and parables, and the parable of the bird has been one that has been impactful for my life. Some years ago, I wrote an article and I titled it, "Dance Like Everybody's Watching and You Don't Care." It was the idea that I don't want to do my dance of life in secret. And I want to get to the point that I can be who I am, whether I'm in public or in private. That I can do the dance of life. And if others are watching, it has no impact on how I move in my life. that I move based on the choices and the values that I hold dear to. And I thought about that as I thought about birds and about the birds being provided for. And as a farmer, I've thought that through also, that we cage birds that could survive out in the wild. They could go find food and water. But when we cage them, they're very dependent, even if right outside of the cage is what they need to be able to sustain themselves. We become the deciding factor between life and death, and really paralleling that in a way that makes sense to me or is relevant to me. And it's realizing that oftentimes I create the cages in my life, but unlike the birds, I have the option of reaching my hand through those bars and opening the cage up and exiting to my freedom. But that this spiritual principle is about also when I am being like birds. Universe provides for me in the same way. And my logical mind says that's not how it really works, but my experiential mind says, oh yes, it does. What does that mean for me personally? It means that when I am being true to being who I am, when I'm able to be honest with myself and honestly say, what is it you really want? What is it that really gives you joy? And do you have the courage to do that, to live that existence? Because if you live that existence, the universe for you, just like those birds, provide. Doesn't matter who's watching. Doesn't matter what they think about it. Doesn't matter how they assess what you're doing. You just keep on moving. You may see the watching, but you keep on moving. You see, that's what the bird did to me. It let me watch, whether it's from my table in my dining room, or whether it was me standing up close at my kitchen window watching the motion unfold over the past few days. The bird didn't stop. The bird didn't question whether I understood what it was doing, what time it was, why it needed to prepare now. It didn't need to understand whether I knew the signals of the season that for that bird meant it's time to stop playing and it's time to start building in preparation for new life. And then I realized that is the lesson for me today. That is what is encouraging me this morning. If others are watching, does it stop your motion? Can you dance even if everybody's watching? I was the spectator. Perhaps there was no one else that realized this motion that has been happening for the past few days outside of my window. But for me, the reminder is to do your dance. Stay in your lane. Move at your speed. Find your truth and live it. If others are watching, that's cool. If nobody's watching, that's cool too. But it was that reminder that when you're able to operate life in that way, the universe magically provides. This bird had its provisions met But it was work. This bird was working. Things that were way too heavy on a normal day were practical solutions for the goal. And I realized that understanding freedom and the way the universe provides bountifully isn't about foregoing the work. That oftentimes the things that you hope for, the provisions will be in all kinds of places, but it's up to you to go and get them. And sometimes that's a heavy load. But it's the focus, it's the commitment that fuels me forward. And that feels so much like this chapter of my experience. I'm doing some things. And there's probably people that if I opened the door for criticism would tell me how I should be doing life differently. Perhaps they see a different path that I could be taking. And it is the confidence to say this is my sometimes eclectic, oftentimes colorful way of doing the dance with life. And whether individuals watch or not, it's my pace and my rhythm. It's going out and finding all of the beautiful ways that the universe provides. For me this week, the universe has provided the lesson in this bird. I'll be watching today to see the progress that the bird is making and what else this bird can go find to bring into making reality of its vision. Today, that bird has been one of those things, resources, that the universe has allowed me to go find to help build the vision of my heart's desires. My work is about healing community. It's no secret to a lot of people. And the resources to do that is just like the birds. It shows up. It requires the work. It requires going out and finding them and bringing them together. That bird was weaving the tapestry that I weave with my life. But if I look for the things that connect us, that connect me, not only with nature, but with the very principles of the universe, my reminder, my encouragement today is to be like birds.